Still on the election, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Governor Adeleke on his re-election in the Osun State governorship election, describing the outcome as a boost for Nigeria's democracy. Tinubu said he spoke with Adeleke and urged him to unite Osun residents for pursuing growth, stability, and economic progress across the state. Adeleke, the Accord Party candidate, secured 511,067 votes to defeat APC candidate Bola Oyebamiji, who polled 444,815 votes. He won 19 of Osun's 30 local government areas. The president commended INEC and security agencies for the peaceful election. Adeleke also thanked Tinubu for the congratulatory call and reaffirmed his support for the president's 2027 re-election bid. Let's go in depth and analyze the recent developments, starting with, we're joined by the former Organizing Secretary of the APC, Yohana, and also joining us is Public Affairs Analyst Tohwo Oseruvwoja, who joins us from the United Kingdom. Let's examine the election and its outcome. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the news this afternoon. Let me start with you, Sam. INEC has now declared Governor Adeleke the winner. What does this result say about the strength of the party's campaign and electoral strategy in Osun State?
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, viewers at home. This shows that if INEC wants to conduct a transparent election, they have the capacity to do it. And this all shows that, irrespective of political party, it is clearly showing now that it is a candidate that matters, irrespective of political party. The Osun people, the Osun electorate have spoken. They have spoken in the sense that they are ready to pitch their tent with Governor Adeleke for the next 4 years. Moving forward, I expect him to extend hands-on friendship to other contestants so that they will all come together and work towards the progress of Osun. Moving forward, there's so many things that happened before the election, and I expect by now corrections would have been made. There were inflammatory statements, there were violence prior to the elections, and honestly, these doesn't speak well for our democracy. The earlier, the better these things are dealt with, and perpetrators of this act should be called to book and reprimanded so that it will serve as a deterrent to other people moving forward towards 2027 general election.
So what are the key political factors that explain Ademola Adeleke's victory in the Osun governorship election?
Well, this shows that the people of Osun, most of the electorate, have kept faith with him. I haven't been to Osun in recent times, so I don't know how far he's gone with infrastructural development and institutional reforms. But from the grapevine, I was told that he has actually improved infrastructural development both in urban centers and in rural areas. And I think that has convinced the electorate in Osun to see that if they give him another 4 years, he will make tremendous progress. And this is a man that there are no kind of challenges that he didn't face before the election. We all saw what happened. We saw massive mobilization to see that he is defeated, but yet he came out victorious. So that shows that he has done very well, and we're hoping that his second tenure, he should do better, because we have history in this country where some elected representative or executives, when they get elected for the first tenure, they perform excellently very well. But when they come for their second term, they now do an opposite of what they did in their first tenure. So I'm hoping that he should do better, because the people need to be compensated for this sacrifice they've done for him.
So would you say it was sacrifices? Apologies, so I understand we cut you off there when you were answering the question. So I'm going to go ahead to let you finish your remarks on my question about key political factors. But I want to add to that by saying that the Osun State government, the residents of Osun State, did they make a sacrifice, in his words, for voting for the incumbent?
Is the question for me or for
no,
my
for Tohwo.
Okay.
You say if the people of Osun State make sacrifice, the question would be yes. I'll answer it to the affirmative yes, that they actually make sacrifice because they've submitted their, should I say they've submitted their future or their security, life improvement, quality of education, quality of infrastructure to a man, Adeleke, for the next 4 years. So whatever comes out of Osun State is as a result of their decision. So I will attribute that to be sacrifice. Then I will also take it further to see that I will also want to commend the people of Osun State, because if you look at the voters' outcome in 2022, and now there's been a bit of increase of voter participation. And it boils down to efforts made by the media, effort made by civil society to make people understand that the gun at the military, that coming out en masse to demonstrate is a means of protest during the military era, where people say our voice cannot be heard through the ballot. But in democracy, the easiest way to protest and the law-abiding way to protest is through the thumb. And people came out en masse to actually participated, even with the high level of security threats. I think I believe that Osun State, among all the off-cycle elections, carries an enormous violence environment prior to the election. But this has proven to be the other way around. After the law enforcement and at the same time, maybe the body language of Mr. President has put it in a way whereby whoever that is found wanting will face the book. And I believe those who have been identified should not just be let go for the purpose of reconciliation, but should be brought to book ahead of the general election.
Ahead of the general elections. Sam, how does the APC reconcile the outcome of the expectations going into the election? I mean, going into elections, we saw all that happened leading to the elections and all of the antics from the APC quarters, whether it's from Governor Okweolo to the APC candidate in the state. So particularly given the party's confidence during the campaign and seeing the outcome, is there a disparity here, or is it now affirmed that Osun State really isn't an APC stronghold?
No, not really. There were two mistakes the APC made in Osun. One, when Governor Adeleke wanted to come into APC from PDP, some APC chieftains in Osun blocked him from coming in. Even after Mr. President called the major stakeholders for a meeting and asking them that this man wants to come. And some of you are saying that, no, you can do this alone without him coming. Are you sure you people can do this alone? He said, you remember this man was not holding any political office, yet he defeated an incumbent before now. And now he's the governor. They kept assuring Mr. President that no, they can do it alone. He doesn't need to come in. They just let him go to wherever he wants to go. The second mistake was the way Yohana was treated wasn't fair. You remember during the primaries, he was screened out. And his body language showed clearly that he didn't work for APC during this election, because the result that came in from Ife, where his Omisore is one of the strongest strongholds, showed that APC performed poorly there. In as much as he didn't come out openly to show that he is not working for APC, he kept going for all meetings, campaigns, and other things. But most of his followers clearly were campaigning for the governor, Adeleke, which shows clearly that in the afternoon, Yohana could be working with APC, but in the night, he could be working with Accord Party. So these are the two major mistakes that APC made in this election. And now it has come and haunted APC. If these mistakes were not made, I'm telling you, Governor Adeleke would have been history by now. But moving forward, there's still room for reconciliation to see how the party can come together and form a formidable force towards 2027 election. Like I always say, it's work in progress.
Tohwo, let me bring you into this conversation, right, about a cohesive party when it comes to Osun state level regarding APC, but also importantly, the mistakes that Sam has just mentioned. Do you also agree with him? Because when we look at the results, APC polled about 444,000, whilst the Accord Party went over that number by 511,000, right? And so when we look at both numbers, one has to ask about the gap that should have been closed. And the 30 local government areas, Adeleke got 19, if I'm correct, of those of those local government areas, and that means about 60% or 65 thereabout. What does this say? Do you think that those two mistakes were grave, or are we going to see a re-emergence come 2030 for Osun State?
Aside the two mistakes identified by should I say my colleague or outside the two mistakes identified, you also understand that public sympathy played towards the Adelekes when they believed that there was use of federal mines. Particularly, if you look at the view of Nigerians towards the freezing of the state account ahead of the election, and if you also look at the view of Nigerians, particularly people of Osun State, over some of the key actors who came and represent APC during the campaign, and statements attributed to some of the APC chieftain. So basically, you also identify that mistake as part of sympathy votes going to the Adelekes. And if you also look at the person of Ademola Adeleke, is a socialite, and the family is identified with that level of socialism. So if you notice, what the people like most time is trying to bridge the gap between the upper class and the lower class. And when you see him in his dancing position, whatever you want to think of him, you see that entertainment. So you even let go of questioning the accountability of his governance for 4 years, and want to fall in line with him. It made people laugh. I am aware that some of my friends who are in Osun, when you speak to them, they said his ability to make a serious atmosphere to be a bit lively. And you should also remember the issue that played out between him and the wife of the president during our coronation as, I think, a chief I think it's the Oni of Ife, yes. So this public view towards the APC chieftain that he's being bullied by the powers that be. So that also plays a major role when it comes to sympathy votes. But there's another thing we should also look at. If you also look at, I think in 2022, when he contested against the then incumbent governor, you should also remember that the campaign strategy APC used at that particular point in time was also what they used in this 2026 election. And I can remember vividly the comments of the then Vice President of Nigeria, Oseruvwoja, when he made, I think if I rephrase it properly, that we can't have a dancing person in government house, if I rephrase it properly. Right. But I think Adeleke's reply is that he would dance to the government house. So you see, these are things the people see as, oh, is one of us. These are things the people see that is done to us. There's no difference between we and him. So he has been that fact of he's a gentleman, people pleaser, people, and at the same time, people want to deprive him from associating with the public. So that plays a major role.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a very short break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about voter turnout. INEC's preparation for this election is an off-cycle election. We're going into January, 5 or 4 months away. And what are we looking at when it comes to a national level, when it comes to preparedness? But after the break, you're watching News Now on News Central Television. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Our guests earlier have been discussing the victory that have been announced by INEC with the incumbent of Osun State, Governor Ademola Adeleke, being announced the winner of the gubernatorial elections that concluded yesterday. Our guest is former Organizing Secretary of the APC, Sam Yohana. Also joining us from the United Kingdom is Public Affairs Analyst and legal practitioner Tohwo Oseruvwoja. Both of them are joining us to examine the election and its outcome. Gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us. Sam, let me come back to you, right? I'm going to give you a right of reply to all that Tohwo said before the break, but also very interesting that President Tinubu has described Adeleke's victory as a reflection of the people's will. But also in the governor's statement when he was congratulating the president, he also did thank the president and endorsed him, right? Which is now, there's now a trail of reaction to that on social media. I don't know if you've seen that. Do you want to say that? Do you want to, make a statement regarding that? He sort of endorsed the president, and very quickly there was a tweet to him by the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, who he now said he quote, and I quote, "Agreement is agreement." What does this say about the APC and its narrative or this rhetoric that they keep pushing about this was a democratic and a free and fair election? Why should a governor thank the president and also endorse him when it should be supposed to be his congratulatory speech?
Well, is this question directed to me?
No, wait. It's for Sam, but Tohwo, you're gonna jump in just a second. Let's give it to Sam.
Okay.
I don't have an idea if there's an agreement between the president and Governor Adeleke. All I can say is the president is the president for all Nigerians, irrespective of political party. The president has the right to congratulate any governor. I remember when late General Buhari was the president, he was congratulating opposition party members if they win election. That shows that he has provided a level playing field. Then for Governor Adeleke to say that he has endorsed Mr. President for 2027 election, I think he's saying that because probably Accord Party is not going to be on the ballot presidential election. So probably he's already made up his mind that he's going to support Mr. President since his own party doesn't have a presidential candidate. So I think that's a little I can say about what both of them have exchanged between them.
Tohwo, you were going to jump in. What does it say about party loyalty and just broader political dynamics? Is it supposed to be a victorious speech or an acceptance speech, so to say, given that he has been announced the winner? But in that same speech, he's thanking the president and endorsing it. What do you say?
If Sam can trace back to 2013 or 2014, what the political parties that make up the APC, you discover that PDP faction is part of the political party that make up the APC, and most times we joke that the P in the APC stands for PDP. There are three blocks that came together to form the APC. So Adeleke becoming the governor of Osun State through the PDP is also an allegiance to the APC to some extent. And I want to make this thing clear to Nigerians listening to me, that we don't have oppositions in Nigeria. We only have aggrieved individuals coming together to snatch power. That is just what we have. So Adeleke coming out to say, is pledging his allegiance to the president is one of those category of people who, for the purpose of seeking or obtaining power, they understand, falls into a political party, and he having emerged as the president, as the governor-elect. And the most annoying part of it is the fact that his welcoming speech or his victory speech is attributing it to the president. It boils down to the fact that we've been so casual and we'll be so malnourished to the point in mentality that we now solely rely on stronger individual rather than a stronger institution. So it's victory now, mostly, if you speak to people, if you speak to public analysts, if you will speak to the people of Osun State, they will tell you, well, it's not the making of the Osun State people, but the making of the president because he decided to keep quiet. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Which ought to be in a society where law and institution preside over individualism. So then for him to have pledged his for the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, I won't say I'm ashamed for him to have made such a tweet. Agreement is agreement, but he should also be aware that outside the vote of Adeleke, there are people, the people of Osun State will decide who they'll vote for come 2027 general election, irrespective of Adeleke's view or his allegiance to the president. So it all boils down to the will of the people.
I mean, would you say this for the other governors as well, those who have defected from the PDP or otherwise to the APC? They all have promised the president 1 million votes in their own quarters, which takes me to my final question for both of you. I'm going to start with you, Tohwo, and then, pass it on to Sam. We saw a voter turnout like never before in Osun State, over 47%, and that means 1.9 registered voters, but 1 million showed up at the polls. We saw over 5,000 beavers being deployed to over 3,000 polling units across the 30 local government areas. And what we saw yesterday during our live coverage, and also from other election observers, were that the beavers were slow. People were waiting under the sun. Some couldn't find ways to sit. There were long queues, and some other polling units saw voting going as far as after the closing hour for votes, which was at 2:30 p.m. So how ready is INEC? Because if a 47% turnout seemed to be an issue, what happens when you multiply that across the 36 states and the FCT? Plus, we've been complaining about voter apathy. Now we're seeing a pattern. Is Osun an outlier? Will this be the same for, the national elections come January of 2027? Is INEC ready? Can they be ready?
If INEC is ready.
Sorry, let me start with Tohwo. Forgive me, Sam. Tohwo.
Okay, so let's start with if INEC is ready. I'll tell you INEC is ready to conduct the 2027 general election. And you could also, you should be aware that what transpired where they had to revert to immediate printing of ballot paper to include a party that was earlier excluded from the election. That shows the readiness of INEC. But the question should be, are the people also ready? Yes, we talked about the numbers of registered voters, and we talked about the people who came out to vote. Now, the question is, in a society like Nigeria, with the high level of insecurity, with the high level of poor level of economy, with the high inflation, with bad roads and every other thing you can put in place, if these people come out to vote, I think we should still need to go for further orientation drive as to the importance of people coming out to vote during the election, because their votes will determine whatever their future will hold in the next 4 years. And I'll also make you understand the fact that if not the turnout of people that came out for this election, the election would have been violently rigged, because every individual who stay away from election give the politicians to manipulate that particular number to his or her favor. So it's a lot we need to go in terms of orientation, in terms of making people understand. And if you also look at the video and the turnout, you describe that the youth are, like, let me use the word, if I'm correct, put me wrong, but I followed the program all through. You described that the turnout of the youth is something we need to be worried about. Mm-hmm. The turnout of the youth, majority of them are these elderly ones who came out to vote. Yes. And the youth were people we saw that were either arrested as a result of thuggery and all those stuff. So we should make them understand that Twitter, X, or social media will not win an election. We should also make them understand that in a developed society or developing society, mass demonstration cannot change the affairs of government, if not for your thumb.
Right. And also just to point out as well, we also saw women, all right? They came out in numbers, mass numbers, women and the elderly. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, the increase in the turnout was as a result of the stakes was very, very high. Most of the leading political parties, 3 of them, really mobilized their party members and electorates. Civil society did a lot too to enlighten people and to see that they mobilize people to come out and vote. Then the electoral umpire as well also did a lot of enlightenment to see that, like what was said, the more people you have that come out to vote, it minimizes the level of rigging in election. That's why any place I find, anytime I find my opportunity to talk to people as a chieftain of the ruling party, I tell people, please come out and vote. If you don't come out and vote, you are giving room for the election to be compromised. And you can see that the number of people that came out to vote in Osun election yesterday, was far higher than the people that came out in the last governorship election in Osun. So moving forward towards 2027, a lot of people, we need to do a lot of mobilization to see that a lot of people, and let me tell you one thing that normally brings in both voters apathy. The primary elections of political parties affect the general election a lot. Reason because once the internal democracy of a particular political party, it's not improved, or the right person did not emerge during the primaries, it discourages electorate to go and vote. And that's also affect the performance of executives and legislatures. Reason because a lot of political parties have issues with their internal democracy. This issue of imposing candidates on the party, it doesn't augur well for the political parties, and it affects the general turnout during the general elections. So political parties, take it or leave it, they have to improve their internal democracy, where transparent primary election process, make sure that the person that emerges has the acceptability of the electorate. That will encourage electorate to come out on the general election and cast their votes.
Right. Tohwo, you made a statement earlier, or rather there was a comment that you made which I picked up on, and it was something about the differentiators between, having, powerful individuals or sort of, they outpower, let me use that word, institutions, and so far Nigerians seem to lose trust in institutions when they're more larger than life, individuals. And so let's talk about that, right? One of the phenomena that we saw during this election was at the collation center, and at the end of each elections, those who voted waited at the end. They followed the ballot papers and the PU officers, that's the polling unit officers, to the state collation centers, and they waited there, until the counts were done and they were satisfied. And so it brings back to fore the statement you made earlier. Do you think that Nigerians or younger Nigerians have lost faith in institutions, and that is why we're seeing the less numbers? And have we got into a dire situation? Isn't it dystopian that we cannot go back home, turn off our televisions, wake up the following morning, and be happy about the outcome of an election and trusting that the officials and the institution have done the right thing?
If you say Nigerians have lost hope of their institution, who are the institutions? The institutions are made up of Nigeria. And I was having a webinar when I spoke to some youth, and they were saying they've lost hope in the electoral process in Nigeria. And I asked a simple question, like you, Judith, or maybe Nigerians now. If you pray to God that as you are walking home, you see 1 million naira, and you get home, you didn't see the 1 million, does it mean you've lost faith in God? No, because things work in a systematic way which is well organized, and that organization cannot be breached. So now this comes back to where I made my statement. Nigerians, or the people of Osun State, protected their votes. They monitored the vote from the polling unit down to wherever the result was announced. Yes, it's as a result of institutional breach. Now, when it comes to the icing of the cake of the institutional breach again, is when the governor made his victory speech. So with the victory speech, because I took time to listen to his victory speech, and I discovered that his loyalty would be to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is an individual, President Bola Tinubu, than the people of Osun State. This is where my problem comes with the stronger institution and with a weaker institution and stronger individual. In US today, a governor can win an election that does not belong to Donald Trump's political party, but he stands with the people. He makes both statements, he makes both decisions in line with the people. But with what we've seen, you will discover that why will he thank the president? Why will he thank the president if the institutions are right, if the police are impartial, if the INEC knows what they are doing, if the result is not altered? Do you understand? Mm-hmm. These are institutional issues, not the president's intervention. So going back to thank the president for making it free and fair, you are putting a whole lot of institutions in the hand of individuals. But you should know that laws are already made for these institutions to operate fairly, adequately, for the interests of the masses, not on the directive of an individual.
But individuals are the persons who also enforce. Individuals are also the persons who enforce those laws as well, right? So I mean, it's dystopian when you think about it, because at the end of the day, no matter the strategy, culture would always eat it for lunch. So where do we stand?
We stand is the fact that what is the letter of the law? the letter of the law is what is the driving force of an institution, Judith. And I'll tell you, though the law does not live, but it appears in the face of the individual. And when the face of the individual respects the provision of the law, that is where we have stronger institutions. So culture has nothing to do with this. It has to do with impunity. Culture has nothing to do with this. And I'll also make you understand that just a few days ago, there was also a by-election in UK here. And the person who won did not look forward. Is not a member of the Labour Party. As a matter of fact, he is the far right, but he didn't even give a credence to the Prime Minister. He didn't give credence to Labour Party. He only gave credence to the people of his constituency that voted him, because he knows, with or without the president, with institutional-based society, he holds no allegiance to an individual or his victory to an individual, but the people of his constituency, which I want to call on Adeleke to owe his gratitude to the people of Osun State, not the president, for allowing free and fair election. As a matter of fact, it's the responsibility of INEC to conduct free and fair election.
You see, I haven't answered my question, because the question I asked was that whether or not institutions, maybe our faith in institutions have been lost due to powerful individuals that have been. But again, I wish there was enough time.
It has actually.
Yeah, okay. Well, gentlemen, I gotta let you go because they've been in my ear to say I have to say goodbye. Tohwo, many thanks. Always good to see you, and many thanks to you, sir, Mr. Sam Yohana, for joining us. We appreciate you. And many congratulations to the people of Osun State and Governor Adeleke Ademola. Thank you once again, gentlemen.